So this is the best Solar Titan build in the game. It offers unlimited melee abilities, one of the best heals in the game, and insane damage both with the melee and the super. If you're watching the screen right now, this is master content while being 20 levels under, and the Solar Titan does not care. We're out here two-hitting champions with the melee and completing master lost sectors in minutes. And not just one lost sector. If you notice on the screen, these are different lost sectors being completed really easy, really fast. If you guys just want to go ahead and copy the build, there's timestamps in the description. But if you guys want to go ahead and understand the build, just go ahead and stick around. So straight to the point, the build revolves around three things. One is Roaring Flames. Number two is the exotic arms called Syntoceps. And three is Tractor Cannon. Roaring Flames is your aspect, and for every solar ability defeat that you get, it increases the damage of your solar abilities up to 3 times for a 30% damage increase. Syntoceps increases your melee damage up to 200% and your super damage up to 50% while being surrounded. And Tractor Cannon suppresses and weakens the enemy by 30%. And all this combined is what allows us to do what you're seeing on screen right now, which again allows us to run through these lost sectors like nothing. This is probably one of the only few builds. There's other builds in the game that can do this. There's other classes in the game that can do this, but there's few of them, and this is probably one of the strongest one. And for all you guys that think that this might be a little bit complicated, all you really need to remember is 3 simple things. Number 1, Roaring Flames needs to be up to ×3. Number 2, you need to be surrounded. The more enemies, the better. Up to 3 enemies, I think that's the max. But you need to be surrounded for your melee damage or your exotic arms to really kick in. And finally, you need to use the Tractor Cannon to suppress those tough enemies, those higher level enemies, so you can weaken them and do that really good damage. So 3 simple things. Getting into unlimited abilities. As long as you use your throwing hammer and pick it back up, you can use this unlimitedly. And every time you use it, it recharges your nade and your super. If you pay attention, every time we use our melee, we get a nice amount of super energy if we defeat the target, a decent amount of nade energy just for hitting a target, our melee back for picking up our hammer, and if we do hit a target as well, we get some health, which is called cure. So really good combination of unlimited abilities, and you can keep chaining them. Best heal in game. This Solar Titan builds offer many ways of healing and restoration, which is probably the best heal in the game other than a well from a warlock. You can consistently take damage, but as long as you have restoration up, it's going to keep trying to restore your health no matter what. You can also heal from your hammer, you can heal from your sunspots, you can heal from your ability defeats, you can heal from your nades, and you can set it up to heal from other things. So it really offers many ways of healing, even reviving your teammates if you want. And the final thing we got is the insane damage. If you haven't noticed from this gameplay yet, this build can hit hard, literally allowing you to 2-hit melee champions that are 20 levels over you like nothing, and allowing you to clear out ad rooms and take out boss health like nothing. I already explained where the damage is really coming from, but just a quick go over: Roaring Flame ×3, exotic arms for being surrounded, and finally the debuff coming from Tractor Cannon. Let's go ahead and get into how to make this build. So the first thing we want to go ahead and talk about is the stats. The first thing we want to go ahead and aim for is 100 resilience. The next thing you want to go ahead and aim for is 100 discipline. And after that, you want to go ahead and aim for intellect. This class has a lot of forms of healing. It can heal through its melee, it can heal through its nades, it can heal through its super, it can heal through revives, it can heal through weapons, there's a lot of formats of healing through this class. So I feel like aiming for recovery would be the worst thing to do. And I know you see mine on 83, and that's because my armor just has a lot of recovery. I went through my vault, and no matter what I did, I just end up with a lot of recovery. But the 3 stats is resilience, discipline, intellect, not strength due to the fact that your hammer is unlimited as long as you pick it up, not recovery because you can heal all the time, and mobility doesn't really do anything for you as a Titan. So definitely resilience, discipline, intellect, and then if you have left over, then I guess drop it on the recovery. Moving on to the armor and the mods that we have on each armor piece. Starting off with the helmet, we have Ashes to Acids, which is defeating targets with our nades gives us more super energy. We have Solar Siphon, defeating enemies with our solar weapons make orbs, and we're going to need this so that way we never lose our hammer, and I'll explain in a little bit. And finally, hands-on, defeating a lot of targets. Well, just defeating targets in general with our melee is going to give us super energy, but since we're going to be doing that a lot, so this is just free super energy. Some people will put on 2 of them, but again, I'll explain why we have this on so we never lose our hammer. Next thing we got is the arms. We have Syntoceps. We have heavy-handed on our, since we're going to be using our melee to do a lot of the defeats. It's going to make orbs on our defeats. Hitting stuff with our melee is going to cause us back to get our nades, since we're going to be hitting a lot of stuff with our melee. It's going to give us grenade energy. And finally, defeating things with our nade is going to give us an orb. Not something that's going to happen a lot, but it will happen when we really need it the most. And again, I'll explain why later. And then the chest piece doesn't matter because these change, but for the most part always have a concussive dampener, and then these 2 depending on the activity. Moving on to the boots, we have 3 iteration mods, which is just whenever you use pick up orbs, you get back your nade. This is how we get back our nade really quickly, since we're going to be using our melee a lot, and our melee is going to make us orbs. And then when we pick them up, it's just going to give us back our nade, and consistently a chain of events happening. Finally, the class ability, we have the secret mod is a 1-2 finisher. This is important, I'll explain in a little bit. Then we have Bomber, which is when you use your class ability, you get back nade energy, so another way to get back our nade really quickly. And then whenever we use our class ability, we also make an orb. So a couple ways of making orbs. We have our melee to make orbs, we have our nades to make orbs, we have our class ability to make orbs, we have our weapons to make orbs. And the reason we want to make orbs, because you know, if you ever played as a solar titan, there has been that many times where you just chuck your hammer to the middle of nowhere and now you're useless. You can't punch anything, you can't do anything, you don't do it. Like without your hammer, you're useless. So you need to get it back as quick as possible, and with having low strength, that makes it really hard. So how do we get back our hammer? Really easy. All we need is 3 orbs. If we can pick up 3 orbs, we can just make our melee come back. And if we use our class ability, we make an orb. If we, defeat targets with our nade, we get an orb. We're not going to count our melee at this point because we already lost our melee. We can't make any orbs, even though sometimes you have roaring flames active after losing your hammer, so you can still continue to punch things and make orbs if you still have roaring flames. But again, let's say you don't have roaring flames at the time, so you're only making orbs either through punching something literally, but I think you might have to have your melee ability active for this one. But still, you have your nade to make orbs, you have your class ability to make orbs, and finally you have your solar weapons, which is why we put on Solar Siphon. So if you really lose your hammer, which again, it does happen, it happens to me a lot, and now you're useless, all you need to do is just go get a double kill with your solar weapon, and it'll pop an orb. And if you make sure to use your class ability before getting that orb, then before getting that double kill, you're gonna get another orb from Reaper. So that's 2 orbs for the double kill and the Reaper. And then finally you throw a nade, and that's your 3rd orb. Or you can just get another double kill real quick, and then there'll be your 3rd orb, and then you just go do a finisher. And even by then, from all the melee abilities that you were doing before throwing your hammer, you should have at least 3 orbs by then, which making a finisher should just bring back your hammer. And again, that is really important because I hear it when you titans lose your hammers and don't know what to do after. Finally, let's go ahead and go over the actual class ability. So starting off with the abilities, the first one we use is the big shield. Normally I like to use the little one because it improves the reload and the range and the handling of weapons, but since we're not really going to be using a lot of weapons with this one, we're going to be throwing our hammer, we're going to be using the big shield. Of course, strafe lift, we're going to be using the throwing hammer. And the nades is up to you, but until now I'm using fusion grenades. I think they can be switched up to something that got buffed recently, which I'm not exactly sure, but I'm still using fusion grenades. But again, there could be something better at the moment. If you need the heals, this is where the healing grenade comes in. Like I said, one of the other ways of healing, I don't really need it because I feel like there's just so many ways of healing with this character that even my nade I don't use as a healing source. But if you need another healing source, you can use your nade as a healing source. The next thing we got the aspects, which is Soul Invictus, and we have Roaring Flames. Roaring Flames is the important one, so make sure you have Roaring Flames. It gives us a 30% damage increase on our abilities just for getting an ability defeat. Regarding the Soul Invictus, it says Solar Ability Final Blows, Hammer of Soul Impacts, and defeating scorched targets create sunspots. Your abilities regenerate faster and your super drains more slowly while standing in a sunspot. Sunspots apply scorch and deal damage to targets inside. Entering a sunspot applies restoration. So Soul Invictus is very important. Make sure you know what Soul Invictus does. helps you out a ton. Finally, moving on to the fragments. The first one we got is radiant and restoration effects applied to you have increased duration. That way we can continuously keep healing for a long time and keeping that, the damage for our weapons for a long time. So if you want to use like a solar heavy with, bonus damage, this would be the time while you have radiant up. The next thing we got is powered melee attacks against combatants make you and your nearby allies radiant. This is again giving us a bonus damage to our weapons. It also buffs up the golden gun for the hunter, which I kind of recently learned. Very important, because I think it's a 25%, I think it's 20% damage buff. They nerfed it a little bit. The next one we got is Ember of Mercy. When you revive an ally, you and other nearby allies gain restoration. So like I said earlier, another format of healing, and picking up a fire sprite also grants restoration. So another form of healing, one of the good mods to have on this build, and it also gives you 10 resilience. And the final one we got is defeating scorched targets grants melee energy and creates a fire sprite. Since we're going to be continuously using our melee and scorching targets, there goes fire sprite, which gives us restoration, and it gives us also a bonus 10 recovery. This one is really not needed for this build because you're already, like I said, you heal from your sunspots, you heal from your nades, you heal from just defeating targets with your melee ability. So this is just like a bonus. So if you want to switch this up, 100% can, but this again just makes everything easier. And like I said, the recovery is also not needed, so you can switch it up for anything else if you feel like you can survive very easy again, which I might look into switching up, but this is what I currently have for this season. The next thing I want to go ahead and talk about is the weapons, which really don't matter much as long as they're on solar. If they're on solar, they're going to take advantage of being radiant, and they're going to take advantage of solar siphon, so making you orbs. So make sure your weapons are on solar if you can. Other than that, I hope you guys did enjoy. Be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.